On this week's GTA 5 O'Clock, the development of GTA 5 dissected, character changes detailed, proof of how Rockstar share tech, and the all-important list of platforms. It's all here on this week's GTA 5 O'Clock. Hello and welcome to episode 59 of GTA 5 O'Clock. I'm your host James Jarvis, and joining me as ever is GTA expert Dan Dawkins.
Hello there.
Hello Dan. Right then, today we've got the bug log special. Dan has got 150 pages in front of them. He's going to go through it and pull out all the interesting facts. And then at the end of the video, we've got some 1080p screens that we're going to look at and see if they're real or fake, and some stuff about the iFruit app. But the main thing at the top of the show, Dan, is this bug list report that you have been going through.
Yeah, what is the GTA 5 leaked bug log? Well, you might have read about it on the weekend. I brought the story to PC Gamer's attention, who popularised the story. It's subsequently been repeated by Destructoid, Kotaku, all the big sites have followed it up. The amazing thing is, whilst I'd love to say it's my story, and it is in terms of the analysis and the popularisation, the actual bug log leaked as early as September the 23rd last year. Now, it was reported by a number of websites, but I guess not the mainstream sites who do that thing of essentially seeing what the other mainstream sites are doing and then doing the same because they feel like they're missing a trick. So this is what's happened with the Amazon listing today, where that was actually people that contacted me on email last week to say GTA 5 on PC has been listed on the German Amazon, so I checked it out. I translated it as well from German to English and kind of discounted it because it just felt like maybe a catalogue listing. It wasn't that much proof. There was nothing in the text that suggested any changes in the PC version. It was purely like a stock pasting of a thing, which you may think is significant, maybe not. What I think is far more significant and far more interesting is this leaked bug log, which is 150 pages of A4 long. It's an exhaustive list of every sort of build change Rockstar made during the development of GTA 5 from 2009 to 2013. It contains references to the PC version on explicit and numerous occasions. It talks about a last gen mode, it talks about different lighting effects, it talks about different graphics technologies pertaining possibly to next gen. It's absolutely ram-jammed. I think it's like a sizzling story.
Yeah.
It has been talked about previously, but I don't think ever in this context or depth.
And I think the way that it came about, you say it came out on September the 23rd, which is just after the game came out. Now, obviously, all of the big sites are busy covering the game's launch and all the stories, that the Easter eggs, and has anyone finished it yet? That kind of thing. So, yeah, interesting that it came out just after the game launched. And also, we've seen listings of GTA 5 on PC on Amazon France now as well, I think, which are notorious for putting up listings when they shouldn't really. So all signs are pointing towards GTA coming soon for PC. But let's go through this build log, Dan. So when is the first date when things get really interesting?
Well, the build log starts like the very first entry in the build log, and you can see this on screen, the kind of terminology it uses. It's a little bit like an alien language. The first build entry is on the 20th of April 2009. It's described as the base version added upon creation of the project. So this would be the first working build of GTA on any machine anywhere in the world would have been on this date in April 2009. Now, the bug log essentially goes on with interminable streams of data entries, with stuff that sort of means nothing to any of us outside of Rockstar, certainly not someone in development. It goes on and on and on until the 26th of November 2010. So that's almost like a year after the initial development entry. And it says notes, multiplayer loads in OK. So as early as November 2011, which is like almost what? November 2010. 2010. So almost 3 years before the release of GTA 5, Rockstar were testing a version of multiplayer. It's not referred to as GTA Online, it's referred to as multiplayer loads in OK. So I mean, I think it shows that from the outset they always wanted to do multiplayer, and it's the first thing they mentioned even before things in single player. So it was clearly a big focus of a testing drive all the way through. Now I'm going to skip huge reams of it because a lot of it is just sort of interior game logic. One thing worth noting is that the bug log is often referred to as Bugstar. It sounds like that's Rockstar's proprietary debugging system internally, I'm guessing. What is interesting is we ran this log through, in fact CVG ran this log through a external development source. I can't reveal who they are because I actually don't know who they are, it's just related to me. You could confirm this was definitely a legitimate piece of logging, and it's a piece of logging.
It's not someone filling in a spreadsheet, you mean?
No, exactly, it's not a fake. And PC Gamer, when I gave the story to PC Gamer, it says it contains annotations from Rockstar developers like programmer Robert Schmitz and senior level designer Kenneth Ross. I'm not going to tell all the time of my voice today. Kenneth Ross. It's the excitement of the bug log.
I know.
So yeah, it's 100% legit. So we're going to keep pulling out interesting bits. Okay, so I'm strewing through the sheets, which I also brilliantly sprayed with coffee.
That's quite the morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we did mention the bug log in last week's show, but for those of you who are listening to this week's show, this is going to be a proper in-depth analysis of it. It's going to bring out some brand new things that we've never talked about before and give you a really good sense of how the game has developed over the years and what kind of stuff was added in and what kind of stuff was changed along the way.
So 28th of April 2011, references to Rage, which would be Rockstar's proprietary Rage game engine. It's been used in all this sort of like, well, I say current gen, sort of last gen games to date. It was driving the physics, it was the proprietary thing. It's clearly being used in GTA 5, that's proven. Then on that date they also mentioned for the first time, and this is an entry in the log, now includes RDR style aim control options.
It's Red Dead Redemption.
So Red Dead Redemption, so you think about 2011, like when did Red Dead come out? Very similar timescale. So I'm thinking again, this proves how Rockstar, as you can tell if you're a student of their games, they share tech between divisions and within the company. And they'll go, well, hey, this was a great shooting mechanic used in this game. Let's bring it into this other game and make it better by sharing tech. It's explicit proof, they were doing that. It also references the script. So the script is being talked about then. It's mentioned to a bank release, which is throughout. Whether that's actually a bank thing or some internal reference, I don't know.
It's interesting that as you were going through it, you say internally that it's called the Bugstar development bug list, and obviously we've got Bugstar in the game that Michael Trevor Franklin used the van, who are like they are like a bug team, aren't they? They go in and spray
exactly.
The bank.
That is in no way like an accident. I think Rockstar being Rockstar, that would be a nice little in-joke for, and this is the sort of thing you do when you're working in a team of literally hundreds on a project for 5 years. You need to have the odd laugh.
Yeah, you need a bit of light relief.
Yeah, and so probably, after 2 years of working in Bugstar, someone went, hey, I've made it the jerseys of the rent-a-kill outfit, and everyone laughed and probably went, that's really great.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I'd imagine that would be the kind of thing they do.
Yeah, so that would make sense. Now again, I say it makes reference to, this is in May 2011, so PS3 beta bank release currently do not load on test kits. So they were testing it on PS3 test kits as back as then. Now this is very significant. On June 2011, for the first time it says, includes new Michael character mode.
Huh?
So it shows, again, as far back as then, Michael was definitely going to always be in there. Whether it was around about the time they went, Ned Luke signed, we've got him, we've done the mocap, released the generic texture model, and introduced Ned Luke. But yeah, that could be the moment that flipped.
And interesting that even that far back, he's called Michael. So
yes.
There's never any names in, like characters name changing or anything like that along the way. Well, especially not with Michael anyway.
Yeah, no, it said that the intent clearly seems to have been for a multi-character tale. And in fact, as we move on to the next significant entry, and that is the June 2011, and it says Franklin has no hair. So yeah, something had gone wrong with the Franklin model. He had no hair, and then just 2 days later, or in fact it's on the 13th of June 2011, it says notes includes new Franklin model.
Right, so he's got hair now.
Yeah, so it sounds like they've got the Franklin body right. So it's at Sean Fonteno, so they got him in. Sounds like that's all good. There's a reference on 14th of June 2011. I thought this is interesting. It says, this is the base build for Sam's PT build. Please grab and test your missions areas. Now, Sam, I'm guessing, does Sam count it? So it sounds like they're making internal links to go. Sam is taking this version away. Whether it's PT for playtest,
I would have thought it'd be playtest.
So it could be like, that was the point in the project where Sam took it away,
had a
good go, and he went, right, we're going to do X, Y, and Z.
I like this bit. Don't like Phantom's hair. That needs changing.
Yeah, buckle in. Now, we fast forward to July 2011. Some more gameplay mentions, and this one includes a new scale form remote sniper HUD. So we're making changes to the sniping model and the heads-up display you would see. And it talked about things like known issues. It says issues with melee combat lock-on seen with Franklin and Trevor. It says this can be worked around by spawning a weapon set with W and selecting the melee again. Now, again, I'm thinking if it says spawning it with W, that sounds like a keyboard shortcut. Again, talking about, to me, PC development.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think, even PS3, Xbox 360 and PS4, Xbox One stuff will be developed on PC.
Yes.
Anyway, so it's not a clear indication that it's being, explicitly developed for PC.
This is the crux of it, and this is where I debated it with Colin quite recently. It could be said that this, even though the buglog contains 170 references to the word PC, uses the word PC version, mention of DX11 and X64 programming, you could say, but it doesn't, explicitly prove there's a retail version of PC GTA 5. I mean, my response is really does it not prove that? Because what is unequivocal is the game in its entirety has existed on PC at some stage and was a core component of development, so it seems pretty unusual to expect that to have been a thing they did purely to lead off the PS3 and 360 versions. Just find it fairly spectacular that would have been the case.
Yeah.
Particularly given, insurmountable, complementary evidence, historical precedent, actual common sense. All those many things we've talked about so many times. I just think this is for me, this is the piece of the jigsaw. Anyway, sorry, it says, this is in July 2011, it says issues with melee combat, pressing W. So yeah, they were clearly talking about it then, they were talking about PS3 beta again at the same time. Now, moving on to July 2011, it finally says, includes new look Trevor model. So whether Stephen Ogg came along a little bit longer, or they were still deciding his role or how he walked.
So it went Michael, Franklin, Trevor in the same way that they revealed the trailers. That's the same order, isn't it? Michael, Franklin, Trevor.
I think, Michael, and if you look at the very first trailer for GTA 5 that was released with, why did I move here? I guess it was the weather. And the only character you see as confirmed is Michael.
Yeah.
Now, whether they were deliberately holding back on the other two, or in their mind it was still a little bit unsure about the structure, we don't know. But certainly, Michael was always going to be the lead guy, and in a lot of respects, he does kind of feel like the lead driver of the game. Now, also in July, it says Dead Man Walking playthrough OK on beta and bank release. Now, again, that sounds like a reference to a mission.
Yeah, there must be I can't remember offhand if there's a mission called Dead Man Walking.
Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comments. But there's definitely references to missions. So clearly, again, in that stage, they've mapped a lot of the mission structure. And I'm skipping so many sheets here. Okay, now going back to 19th of July, it says things like included pedestrian stubble shaders. So I'm guessing they were like, what is that? Is that a reference for some programming term, or literally the beardosity of pedestrians? And it says include some high texture detail for pedestrians and player models. So again, it's showing that the build was increasing.
Yeah, and how things would load in, I guess, from a low res, way off in the distance texture to high res when you're standing next to an NPC who's walking down the street. Yeah,
absolutely. So okay, skip. James is exasperated because I've got 7 million pages.
I mean, it's a big log to go through. Luckily, you haven't highlighted all the pages, so that's good.
Yeah, now, August 2011, reference to, it says known issues, crash on prologue mission. So again, prologue.
That's a big issue, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't have your game crashing on the prologue.
Yeah, and clearly was always meant to start in that way in Reflecting.
Yeah, that was a thing from the outset, which we discussed on the show years ago, that they'd have to start with a big bombastic way to get you in, used to player switching and all of that, so obviously it's way early in development that was decided.
Now, what's interesting is in, again, late August 2011, there's a reference to it. It says, Auto PT gets stuck after completion of Family 1, Father/Son. And throughout the bug log, there's references to a thread of missions called Father/Son. So I think, again, they clearly isolated threads of gameplay or mission structures into these broad, generic headlines.
Yeah.
Father/Son, obviously, we're going to tell a story about a man and his child. And that's one of the things we want to achieve with this game.
And there is a mission in the game called Father/Son.
Well, there we are. So it's quite literal. And it goes to this is like Family 2, Family 3. Right. So there's also a set of family-based missions always going to be part of it.
Interesting that it was an auto PT, which we're assuming is going to stand for playtest, like something that they could just let it run, like play itself essentially, and see if there are any issues of it while it's doing that.
Yeah, well, I know limited amounts about bug testing and development, but I think that sounds quite plausible. Otherwise, manually, like I'm doing it now with my hands to test things, is quite slow. Now, going to the September 2011. There's reference to it says includes updated game PSN release. So again, whether that's a reference to something to do with PS3 as early as that, I thought that was quite interesting. October 2011, reference to FBI crash shooting sniper through window. Now that sounds like the mission they first demoed to Game Informer. Yeah. Interesting that in Buglog reference they refer to it as FBI, not FIB. So I guess that's just no one's going to see this, we can say what we want. Going then to October 2011, there's a reference to yoga instructions on display, and the directions they describe are hell. So again, mini games like yoga, that was part of the script, that was always in there. This is interesting. Throughout the entire bug log, it seems as if, reading the subcolumn, they had some more issues with the 360 version than the PS3 version in relation to performance. Obviously, you see the games at the end of the tunnel, and you really wouldn't know if there was any difference. Yeah. But anecdotally, when we've been to see GTA 5 on a number of occasions, we were always downloading it on PS3. And you can see in the bug log here in November 2011, it says known issues, Xbox lighting stroke render issues, recommended you don't grab the 360 unless you really have to.
Wow, so even that far back they were recommending that PlayStation was the way forward. I mean, traditionally, I think Rockstar have always, not led on PS3, but have always sort of developed on PS3, and then it's been on Xbox as well. Like rather than some people who would lead develop on Xbox and then port it across to PS3. I think Rockstar have always tried to do them both alongside each other at the same time. But I mean, have you seen
going
any other games?
Going back to the olden days of like ping pong? I think then they obviously led on 360 because that was what that was built on. But it was a switching point 2 or 3 years into the sort of PS3 360's life where it felt like I was seeing more games running on PS3 from Rockstar than it was 360. It's only anecdotal, I don't want to read too much into that. But through this log, and there are obviously reports of PS3 crashes as well, just it seems like some of the 360 ones do come up more often. It's also the same in, again, 17th of November 2011. It says 360 crash using -last gen resolved. Now that's interesting because it's the first reference to a thing that recurs throughout the document called last gen mode. What could that mean? Last gen mode?
Well, yeah, I mean, if they're talking about references to what at that time, especially, was current gen systems like PS3 and Xbox, you're thinking 2 years ago, wasn't really a mention of the new PS4 or Xbox One. So, I don't know. I don't know what that could mean.
For there to be a last gen, there has to be a next gen or a current gen.
Yeah.
That's the thing that confuses me. So it just feels like, and this has often been speculated, particularly when you look at the quality of some of the trailers and assets released during the campaign. Well, a lot of people speculated these simply look too good for PS3 or 360. It was really hard to definitively say yay or nay because they are trailers. They are maybe compressed in a certain way. They grab from cutscenes, and cutscenes always look better than in game. But there's always this sort of belief that they come from a different place, like a PC debugging machine.
Yeah,
it's possible, that's where they did come from. And again, it references. This is again in late November in 2011. It says a crash occurs during the second part of the yoga minigame during the mission Family 5. Did somebody say yoga? So again, it's building out that entire family set. Again, it's another thread it builds out, and this is going back to the very end of November. It says a crash occurred after launching the mission Car Steal Number 4. So before, we all know this car theft, but that's originally how it began. There's also a reference in that month to a port heist setup. Mission does not progress after picking up a crate. So again, heist built up.
That'll be the one down the docks then, I'd imagine. When you're going and scouting for the sub. So when you're going at the sub.
And it feels like, again, in the 30th of November, there's references to, I think, multiplayer modes, where it talks about mission fails if player tries to rejoin an instance of coke grab, as in capitals, coke grab.
Right.
They were previously arrested on. And throughout the buglog, there were references to multiplayer mode style bugs. Okay, we're getting soon to the good stuff, and it says again, this is December 2011, it says multiplayer character options persist in a game if the player swaps teams on the death screen. So again, references to multiplayer. This is pretty astonishing. We see the game now, it's slick, it runs really great, it looks fantastic. In December 2011 it says FPS averages around 9 to 10 FPS in the latest pre-build. So the game was running at 9 to 10 frames a second.
Yeah.
And I guess games do fluctuate as they add new things to them. But yeah, that was a crushingly slow rate to play at.
Imagine if people would have gone nuts if they had seen anything like that. I mean, it's pretty solid 30 now, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And again, this is the 15th of December 2011. Reference to it says, hold up tutorial ends as the player approaches the designated store. Now that sounds like the hold up tutorial in online. So when Tim and I went to see that and thought it was new and exciting last August, it was in fact 2 years old. Amazing. So Rockstar did a good job of feigning excitement for us. Reference again in late December 2011, it says, crash when following Lamar across the raised roads in Armenian 1.
So that's when you're going, probably when it's the Franklin and Lamar mission, when you first go and meet Simeon.
Yes.
And that's the first time you meet him, so that would obviously be called number 1.
Now, going back again to December, there's a reference where it goes, the game hangs on the loading screen after the cutscene where the chopper reaches the FIB building. So they started referring to it properly internally. It says Family 5 can't be completed as the mission fails after the yoga section. Then a reference to what sounds like multiplayer when it says, if a cop uncuffs a crook off mission, the crook will still be teleported to the precinct due to the animation. And it says multiplayer character options persist in a game for player swaps teams on the death screen.
See, now that's interesting because that explicitly references a cops and crooks mode, which isn't in online yet. That's a mode that we just don't have, and arresting people and being taken to the precinct is something which I think people talked about that they wanted in the game, but it's not in there yet, and it's definitely something that could be in later on. And if they're testing it as far back as that, then surely it's in development still.
Exactly.
Unless they dropped it because it didn't work.
And was there, 2 years ago, which is amazing. So this is now the 1st of Jan 2012. It says, player entered ammunition at approx 10:30 or 22:30 while on the gun shop tutorial. Could not buy a pistol because the shop was closed.
Oh, timing issues.
So yeah, problems with internal clockery. Madness. This is February 2012. It says, all weapons were unavailable for purchase by Lost MC players, regardless of the player's rank.
Another reference to a gang that isn't in GTA Online. So maybe when it was first being developed, there was different, like, instead of having crews, you could like join different gangs, like you'd be the police or the Lost MCs or some other kind of crews on there.
Another reference to cops and crooks. This is in Feb 2012. It says player model swaps from female to male when loading C and C. So yeah,
interesting that again back then they were still thinking the online customization, and you could choose, your sex if you're going to be a male or female, and probably a lot of other customization options as well.
Going to March 2012, it says crash following an assert when attempting to join a mission as a new Vargos character. Again, we talked about the role of the Vargos and the gangs, and this again harks back to previous shows. Rockstar were on the same line. Again, this is a long time before a lot has been talked about with the game. And then there's a reference in, again, March 2012. It says players' wanted rating in associated radius does not update when observed by a cop. So the wanted level system is similar to as we see it now. This is fascinating. On the 27th of March 2012. And it says ARM2. I don't know if this was like a reference to like the ARM chipset. It says penumbra driver offset breaks mission progress. Now, they haven't got to the bits where it's explicitly referencing PC yet, but that is coming up. 4th of Feb 2012, it says no issues. Player can lob any ammunition as if it was a projectile using the new weapon wheel.
Okay.
So the weapon wheel was just introduced, and there is a reference to that weapon wheel system being
That'd be good
introduced.
as well, throwing ammunition at people.
In a desperate last-ditch attempt to make things work. We're up to May 2012, and this says notes include shader changes for the new trees.
Oh, I bet a new treeage going in a year and a half before the game comes out.
So a magnificent increase in foliage. Now, in end of May, 31st of May 2012, it says 2 players became stuck on the COP partner tutorial.
So, I mean, this is really interesting to see how, I guess at that stage, a year and a half before the game came out, the vision of GTA Online was probably a lot different than what we're playing right now. Seems like the things they wanted to do was like massive, and obviously when it came to launching it, they had to cut a lot of those things back just to make it work as it does now. So hopefully, if all of these things had been developed and haven't been dropped along the way, we can expect to see massive changes to GTA Online within the next over the next year.
There's definitely big schools of thought, and you can see the level of change they made as they go along when you look at this entry from the 3rd of July 2012. It says, important note, this includes a control change for weapon and character switch UI. The inputs for weapon and character selection have changed. They are as follows. Press left on the digital pad to display the weapon wheel. Press down on the digital pad to display the character select. When either of these are displayed, the right analog stick is used to select entries. For the weapon wheel, X and O are used to select weapons from the same slot. And it says, this will also be extended to the radio station select in due course. You will need to press the right on the digital pad to display the radio station select. So this is like, July 2012, a year and a bit before the release of the game. That's when that big fundamental lock-in went with the controls. Now, on the 5th of July 2012, there's huge references to areas of the script and missions. It says script, and underneath it says Michael 1, Solomon 4, Fix for Dock Setup, Trevor 2, Agency Heist 1, Agency Heist 2A, Nice House Heist 2A. Now that's interesting because we talked about an abandoned mission on the previous show where Michael and Trevor played gay lovers who were trying to perform a heist?
Yeah, a heist on a big mansion, probably up in like Rockford Hills area. Yeah, Michael and Trevor would go as a couple and meet these real estate people, be shown around a mansion and then plan a heist around it, which as a mission title, Nice House would have probably worked really well.
Yeah, so you think that probably is what it was referring to, and it existed as of July 2012, but hey, never saw the light of day. You know, hey, let's see what single player DLC brings, but certainly we've not seen it yet. Mentions Chinese 1, Family 1, Rural Bank Heist, Finale Heist 2A, Finale Heist 2B, Agency Heist 3B, again referencing a degree of multiple choice and endings. There's Exile 1, fix for playtest issue involving switching to Trevor, Exile 3, compensate for slightly slower dinghy speed, Franklin D, fix button conflict caused by new weapon wheel, and then FBI 2, general fixes tidying up the script. So lots of references to lots of different missions there.
But missions, for the most part, which remained throughout development, you'd think from this log, apart from, this just seems to be the online stuff and a couple of probably single player missions that got dropped along the way, but the majority of them seem to be still there.
This is significant, the 25th of July 2012. There is a reference, an explicit reference to PC, where it's got square brackets and it says PC, all the phones are very dark and hard to read. And it also mentions in square brackets LB, PT, LDS, square brackets DX11, blooms too much on smog weather affecting. On smog weather setting. That is significant because DX11 is DirectX 11. That is Microsoft's sort of exclusive software programming tool for creating optimal graphic effects. It's used like on PC and also is an exclusive version of it on Xbox One. So any PC game coded using DX11 I would imagine, I'm not a programming expert, just no better subject to take this leap, would translate or port an awful lot easier to next-gen systems. And again, this is an assumptive leap on my part. Why would you develop using DX11? Because, you know, you want it to be a portable thing you could take across to new systems.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now the 14th of August 2012, further reference to DX11. It says crash inside grass plant renderer on DX11 only. Now, it's worth noticing that in reference to the previous smog effect, DX11 is really good at producing high-end volumetric filtering effects and such like. Smog would be the ultimate example of that. You might treat the smog level or the sort of weather settings differently on a higher end console or PC. So again, that reference makes sense. Significant date, 30th of August 2012, says control changes, and in capitals, read me. And it says weapon wheel activated by L1 LB button. The weapon wheel has been removed from vehicles, replaced with square to change weapons.
Which it still is.
Which it still is, and it says turning on vehicle headlights is now achieved by tapping the D-pad right.
Still in the game.
Yeah, and it says adjusting convertible roofs is now achieved by holding D-pad right.
Yep.
All special abilities have moved to R3, which is as it was. It says vehicle radios have moved to D-pad left. Looking back and slow-mo have been disabled.
Okay.
Zoom in has moved to L3.
It's interesting that the special abilities, it says, has moved to R3, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, or you could do it, Dan. In the final game, it's both sticks. It's L3 and R3.
Oh, well, quite possibly. Again, they might have changed it again.
It, yeah.
Apologies if I'm wrong. 31st of August 2012. Notes. In-vehicle control change. Hold L1 to aim, press R1 to fire. Hand braking is disabled when aiming. Includes multiple cold script data dependencies. Now, interesting that on the 3rd of September 2012, in the notes it says initial mag demo lockdown build.
So a year almost before the game comes out.
Yeah, and I think this is referenced to, and this starts to coalesce as the bug notes go through, by mag demo they meant the Game Informer demo.
Yeah.
They obviously had it in their mind to deliver a generic first look to somebody. As it so happened, it was Game Informer. That's often what happens. That's how it's being referred to internally. And in fact, the notes intensify a lot around this period because they're clearly working really hard to make it work.
Yeah, to get that slice of the game working perfectly.
Now, this is interesting. It says the 5th of the 9th, 2012. This must be the Game Informer build, but it does say cannot progress past the FIB2 brackets mag demo cutscene inside the FIB building. Cutscene freezes halfway through brackets PC only.
No.
Now, does that raise questions about what Game Informer saw it on? I thought they said it was like a PS3 pad.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can, because of the way pads are configured, you can plug almost anything into a PC and configure it, especially with developers.
So it could be a PC kit but running with a PS3 pad.
Which is what you'd expect it to be if you were seeing a demo as early as a year before the game comes out. You wouldn't probably expect to play it on a test kit of that console. You'd expect to play it on a debug unit, which is more than likely a PC with a pad plugged into it for the controls.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be alien. Now, the 12th of September 2012, it says player can't quit out of race creator tutorial. So editing tools, again for multiplayer, being worked on over a year before release. It also says, this is September 2012, players cannot spawn personal vehicles, bring up the mechanic menu in C and C. Again, there's cops and crooks. Interesting that in the September 2012 it says Trevor's ability not yet active. But that was Trevor's special ability. This includes wanted level change. You can use your wanted level by hiding brackets avoiding LOS to cops for a set period of time that varies per level. So we're still tweaking the wanted level a year from release. And in fact, I've been to see Rockstar and they had hinted that maybe things were changing at that time.
I would imagine that LOS as well would be line of sight.
Yeah. The line of sight police detection, so that clearly did change. 19th of September 2012, square brackets PC. Player is asked to be signed in on the PC when loading or saving games. This causes issues on PC as there is nothing to sign into yet.
Because obviously they wouldn't have had a network set up configured to handle PC stuff, whereas on consoles you've got systems like PSN and Xbox Live that you can sign into, but
there's no agreed server set up or anything. Again, September 2012, Game becomes stuck when you take a photo on the PC version. PC version.
Yeah, that's quite explicit there.
There's a PC version, so again, I don't want to say too much more about that. 3rd of October 2012, Mag Demo Lockdown Build number 3. Trevor's ability still not active.
Oh, come on.
Come on, get working with Trevor. This is the 5th of October 2012, Mag Down Lockdown Build number 5. So they still weren't happy with it. It was still going and going.
It's still called Lockdown, like it's locked down, but it's not totally locked down.
But not quite. Now this is the 16th of October 2012, square brackets PC crash. When accessing last gen mode, the game crashes. Rage, GRC Texture Factory DX11 lock render target. All of your favourites are in there. Yeah. It's PC, it's last gen mode, it's DX11. How are those things interrelated? You do the maths.
Now, I'll tell you what would be interesting and something that could definitely be achieved on a speculated PC version is if you're playing it on PC, like a lot of games do nowadays, as part of the new package to go, hey look, you haven't got it on consoles, like they did with GTA 4, going, your new stuff is you get this video editor to make your own cool stuff with. On the PC version, by the looks of this would be, and references to the last gen mode, is that there is a button that you can press that will revert the graphics back to, say, San Andreas style graphics, which would be a last gen, like PS2 type thing. Everything would be a bit blocky and stuff. It's stuff they're doing with, like, Broken Age does that now. You can press it and it'll go back to those kind of 16-bit pixelated graphics, a bit of nostalgia look. It wouldn't surprise me if the PC version came with a sort of last gen mode that makes everything look a bit rubbish.
I mean, that's interesting. That could be a thing. My thinking was in this context that last gen mode was they were building the game. The lead format, I think, was PC, and they were building everything down from that. So they built it out to the highest sort of spec they thought was achievable, probably given what they thought next gen consoles was going to be, and then created like a last gen toggle within the PC game that reflected the PS3 and 360 game. So you had like two versions of GTA 5 that existed. One was the proper full-blown PC version. One was the PS3 360 versions. I haven't verified that. It's just my feeling. So again, I'm sorry if that's wrong. That's just my feeling.
Well, let's see when the PC version comes out if it's got a last gen button.
Exactly. 13th of November 2012. Stuck on black screen, attempting to launch a Rockstar rally race. Storm Drain. Sounds like multiplayer.
Could be multiplayer. Could be one of the sort of random events that you come across, like some kind of rally race that you get in Los Santos.
Talks in 22nd of November 2012. Includes wanted level change, see attached, and it says something called Full Din Arch turned on as default now, which sounds kind of like a graphical effect or something like that. Now the 23rd of November it says includes updated title IDs, new multiplayer transitions enabled, includes multiple script code data dependencies, so again multiplayer being tweaked and tweaked.
And the multiplayer transition will be the jump out that we're all familiar with when it zooms out onto the satellite image, moves across the map. That's what they're talking about in terms of multiplayer transitions.
This is especially interesting, the 6th of December 2012. The first time it says Dev Network multiplayer playthrough build candidate. So they got to a stage clearly where they thought multiplayer was staged at the test, probably internally. And it says multiplayer playthrough build candidate number 2. So I think that was, before Tim and I saw it, which was like August or something, 2013, they were doing it then. And then it says in December, stunt jumps should be exactly the same in single player and multiplayer. Doing them in either should count towards any achievements, etc. So to synchronise, doing something in single player, it should affect the other player. Also talks in, it's the 17th of December 2012, PC version again, crash. Game Win32 beta DX11, and talks about C++. So again, it's explicitly a PC-based thing.
Yeah, that's the Windows 32-bit system rather than a 64-bit that you use in the new versions of Windows. So it'd be Windows 7, things like that.
Well, that is fascinating because again, the script brings references to X64, which is the 64-bit version of the X86 AMD chip. And that sounds like jargon. Basically, there's a 64-bit custom AMD chip in PlayStation 4. If you were making a game compatible with that on PC, it would also work with PS4 doing the maths. Okay, it also references everything tinted yellow in last gen mode.
Oh, that's bad. So is it good?
I
Depends.
don't know, sounds like they made a grievous error there, but this has turned everything quite bad. Reference to the Polito store. Okay, this is interesting. The 17th of Jan 2013, we're getting really close to release. Parents' heads are not displayed in the character creator. So they made the choice to make it some ridiculous family-based gene creator at that stage.
Which is the same thing that you used to either have Nico or John Marston as your dad, that kind of system.
I referenced earlier the idea that Xbox is having more problems. This is on the 25th of June 2014. It says, stability : memory stomping is affecting Xbox 360 stability. Plus, multiplayer has a major bug on Xbox 360 also. PS3 works better. Interesting reference in May 2013 where it says, the Diamond Hard achievement gets unlocked and the flow progresses as expected on loading the autosave. What's the Diamond Hard achievement? Is that linked to like the Diamond Heist, maybe?
Possibly. We'd have to check the achievements list to go through that properly, but it seems like they're obviously naming them and getting them in and checking that they're all working now, which is still, 8 months before the game's out, in January?
Yeah, and this is then we're coming up to May now. It talks about the Maibatsu Factory Steel. It says 4 players launched LSIA Titan Steel from the apartment Corona. This is talking explicitly about the build that Tim and I saw last year, and we reported to you as exclusive, and at one stage it existed as a really quite boring bug log. This is great. This is May 2013. It says DLC. The full beard reward you get for joining Social Club cannot be chosen if you have the slicker hairstyle.
So you're going to get the first bit of DLC is going to be beards.
Yep, full beards.
Full beard support.
So is that our revelation? Beard DLC. They talked about microtransactions. Could it be appearance stuff? It's that trivial. That's why the appearance things are so rubbish, because they want you to have
buy extra beards.
Yeah, to buy extra beards. Talking again in June 2013, it says unable to access DLC store after race.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, DLC obviously in everyone's mind means new missions and stuff, but DLC is like it's literally downloadable content, and this downloadable content could be free. It could be new beards that they're just pulling in afterwards. It's still downloadable content. It's just you're not paying for it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we talked about X64 appearing in here. Yes, it appears here. It's interesting when it does appear. This is the 13th of July, 2013, right? And it references no X64 pre-build support, right? Where is that in the context of history? Well, by July last year, we were by this stage pretty familiar with what the PlayStation 4 was and its chipset. And as I just said, its chipset is a 64-bit version of the X86 AMD core processor. That's easy for me to say. So could it be by this stage Rockstar had established they knew then what PS4 was going to be? Let's build it to those specs.
Yeah, very, very possibly that's...
Yeah, it's speculation. You can say, obviously, what you think. This will be of particular interest to people. 27th of July 2013. In the playtest build, accepted an invite from GTA Online for a heist and ended up in session rather than on the heist. So they were testing online heists in July last year, and we are still waiting.
We are still waiting, yeah, but obviously July is pretty close to release, and if they can't get the heists built into it by July, you've only got 2 months till the game's out. Now, whether the idea behind GTA Online coming out 2 weeks after was always a thing, I don't know, but you'd think that if it can't be worked up to push people into the right game modes 2 months before it's out, then you'd start having questions internally about, shall we delay it? Shall we push online back a bit until we can get this kind of thing fixed?
Yeah, and that's what they did. They did push it back by quite a bit of time now. On the so close to release, the 9th of August 2013, less than a month to release. There's something reference to something that says, after arriving at Rob's bar, Otis doesn't get out and you were stuck with no player control.
No, I don't know who Rob or Otis is, I don't think.
No, I feel like I don't know them either. People, please correct us. Is that a reference to... Given that that's that late in development, they either got dropped, didn't appear, or my memory is bad, or it's for something we haven't seen.
Yeah, or it's that so close to release, you'd think the main game would be finished, and this would be when they'd start thinking about, if they haven't already, about DLC and the next wave of content.
Yeah, and in this time we start talking about X80, X64 even more. Then, you know, this is the 11th of August 2013. GTA Online is locked on the dev builds now. It says the final submission updates only. The game's clearly all going through. There's reference, it says something in square brackets called emulated build. Now, you know, whether they, again, this is like, what would you emulate? Well, usually emulations are like PCs running versions of old school games. Yeah. Is this a PC running an emulated version of the current gen game?
Could be.
Or something else. I don't know. There's more to say. Sorry, that was quite granular. There is some interesting stuff there for the hardcore GTA file. You need to seek out the bug log yourself. I think it is available online if it hasn't been ripped away. Yeah. Say I found it through GTA forums, and initially it's emerged last September the 23rd. It's been hosted on Google Drive, some was removed, but the original XML is still available.
Okay, quickly before you go down, that was a great rundown of the bugs list. As you mentioned GTA forums, we might as well start there. A couple of days ago there was a poster from someone conspicuously named Soon TM, who posted a 1080p screenshot from supposedly GTA 5, and he says in the post, you know, not long now to wait guys, it is coming, don't worry about it. A lot of people commented on it. All the other screens that have been released into the build-up of GTA 5 were 720 because they were supposedly captured off console versions. However, this 1080p screenshot is, I'm going to say, 95% fake. The guys have, obviously on GTA forums, have picked it apart. They think it's an upscaled version of a 720 shot, which has then been put into Photoshop and tweaked slightly.
Yeah.
If you look at one of the photo sites, you can see this image alongside a load of other GTA images that have all been slightly tweaked using Photoshop, and this image is actually updated to that site at the time of recording about 6 to 8 hours ago. So it looks like it's just someone who has manipulated an existing screenshot or taken a screenshot from a console build, made it look like a PC one because of all the speculation, I imagine, around the PC release.
Everyone's looking to be a hero and cashing on what's an emerging trend for GTA 5 on PC or next gen. Like you say, I think the screen's fake, but we all believe it because it is a good looking screen and we all think it's coming to PC.
One other thing is Gaming Blend have reported previously in the past that there are PC icons in the iFruit app version. It's the thing you can download to train Chop and get him extra collars on iOS and Android. If you go into that file that you download, there are PC icons which explicitly say like Xbox Garage, PS3 Garage, PC Garage. Those icons aren't active yet, but they are still in the code, which leads people to believe, yes, a PC version is in development, which backs up your bug log stuff.
Yeah, that information I tied to the bug log in an article that we haven't been able to get on CVG, but I hope to be able to release somehow. You can follow at GTAVoClock and there'll be a link, or you can follow me on at Dan Dawkins and I'll put it on the blog somewhere. I just want to share it because there's information spinning out of that sort of suggests evidence to say that PC was in fact the lead platform, and it's all based on to do with the way there's memory allocation tables for assets within those directory files for the iFruit app, and they've got different memory size app proportions, which is similar to how the PC version dealt with the different assets for Max Payne on PS3, PC, and so, you know, there's a obvious thread there.
A big heritage there.
Yeah.
Okay, and finally, this is a little treat. It's GTA 5 running on a PC, but actually don't get too excited because it's GTA 4, which has now been modded quite extensively to look a bit like GTA 5. They've managed to get the Life Invader building in there. Obviously the models aren't as good as you'd expect them to be because it's running on the GTA 4 engine, which is old. Obviously the GTA 5 one has been tweaked quite extensively, so the car physics are still from GTA 4, and you don't get the little effects like weather and things like that, and all the handling and stuff. But it's just
a bit of a Duplo to the Lego version of GTA 5.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it. It's been quite a long episode this week, so thanks for sticking with us. Please don't forget to follow at GTA 5 o'clock. Go and like the page on Facebook, facebook.com/GTA5. And
GTA 5 o'clock.
GTA 5 o'clock. Yeah, not GTA 5. That's not ours.
Yeah.
And join us on Friday, Dan, for the live stream.
Yeah, fantastic. Hope to see you then. But yeah, thanks for following with us, and yeah, let us know what you think in the comments.
Hi guys, this is James from GTA 5 o'clock.
And I'm Dan.
And we've just finished recording this week's episode. So if you liked it, what should they do, Dan?
You should press the like button and then the subscribe button for more great GTA 5 content every single week.
Excellent. So hit those buttons and we'll see you next week. On this week's GTA 5 o'clock, a natural disaster hits Los Santos. Developers give us their insight on the GTA bug log. We look into what the future holds for GTA 5 DLC, plus information about changes to our live stream. It's all here on this week's GTA 5 o'clock. Hello and welcome to GTA 5 o'clock episode 60. I'm your host James Jarvis, and I'm joined as ever by co-host Dan Dawkins.
Hello there.
Hello Dan. Going to keep it relatively short and sweet this week. Coming up in just a second, we're going to look at a tsunami which has hit Los Santos and Blaine County. We've got a GTA bug log update which Dan's been looking into, and then we're going to look at some news reports from in the game and our thoughts on future DLC and how those news reports could shape that. And we've got a bit of info on our live stream and GTA Online coming up later. But first, Dan, let's get straight in to the big thing about the GTA tsunami, which appeared on YouTube this week, I think.
Yeah, I could scarcely believe my eyes when footage did the rounds of a PS3 version of GTA 5 where the entire downtown and, you know, effectively the game world is almost completely submerged with water, bar, you know, the higher skyscrapers and such things. So you see things like Michael leaving his house and probably driving his car underwater and having to swim for safety. Now and again, it's all physics enabled. The game doesn't really slow down. It looks completely legit. It's pretty astonishing, and I guess your first thought is, like, how on earth could this be so? You know, on PC you sort of go, all bets are off, these things can happen, but it is possible to mod PS3 versions of the game provided you have a PS3 debug, James, is that correct?
Yeah, you need a debug, you need the game code, and you need some or quite a lot of knowledge of programming. I think what's happened is they've obviously gone into the game code, altered, I think they've altered the sea level to make it higher, which is why all of the city is underwater, and then from there they've reloaded that back onto their modded PS3 and then made it work. And it's like you say, it is amazing that it does actually work and the game doesn't explode. But that's how they've done it, I think. There is ways of doing it on your own PS3, but it will need to be modded and it's illegal and you shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, apart from that, it's really complicated. I'd massively advise against it. And it's quite likely this is one of the backdoor routes that people have been using to mod into GTA Online and create infinite pools of money, and, you know, the reason Rockstar have been fighting this war against the debug bandits, I suppose. And, you know, this is going to be ongoing, and, you know, as we can talk about the PC version, I imagine will only expand.
Yeah, so it's nice to look at. There's got a lot of physics stuff in it, but it's probably best to just look at it on the YouTube channel or right here, as you can see on screen right now. So moving on from there, Dan, we've got a bit of an update on the bug log, which we covered quite extensively last week.
Yeah, if you've been watching over the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about something we're calling the GTA 5 bug log files, which is a leaked developer XML, which is kind of like a spreadsheet document that in fact first came to light in late September last year. And what it contains is like lots of development information from the creation of GTA 5 over a period of about 4 or 5 years, from like 2009 to about 2014, so 4 years. And we pulled that apart and I've been analysing it, and it contains like 170 references to a PC version, reference to something called a last gen mode, there's references to X64, which we speculated has links to PS4, there's references to DX11, which has links to Xbox One, all quite speculative. So what I've been doing this week is cross-referencing the log with a number of like actual development sources. So we've been out to speak to a couple of sort of AAA and ex-AAA devs who shall remain anonymous, obviously, because we don't want to reveal anything. But we've had some interesting feedback on the document, and I guess the abiding thing really is that everybody agrees that the document is legitimate. There seems to be no doubt about that whatsoever. What is worth clarifying is that this isn't probably strictly the development log, it's the QA log. So the people who test the game for bugs keep a log. It's not the development team's log. Now it's likely they use a lot of the same terminology, because you would expect there to be shared terminology, but it isn't strictly the development log. Now, something we mentioned on last week's show, and you can get much more information on it in last week's show, is that the game does almost unequivocally say yes, GTA 5 was running or is running on PC somewhere. There is a PC build of GTA 5. None of the developers really argued with that. What a lot of them said was it's, of course, common practice for pretty much most console games to develop at the same time, or almost to to develop on PC at the same time. And the reasons for these were given were things like, if you're making it on a PC, it says the PC compiler can catch compilation warnings that aren't picked up on other platforms. I think this makes it easier to monitor what you're doing with this as kind of the base build. Now, what a lot of people have stressed is that having an almost working PC build can be quite a long way from a releasable PC build, partly because of the compatibility issues surrounding PC in terms of the various sort of graphics cards, drivers, controllers. There's a lot of necessary administrative busy work to be done to make that work. So again, that would explain a large delay from the console versions to the PC versions. It's also worth noting that one of the developers had speculated, well, why would you lead on PC if the intention was only to release on PS3 or 360? I think the idea was you might do so if you were developing for other platforms where development kits were unavailable. Now that developer stopped short of saying next gen, but
you can make your own assumptions.
Yes, you can make your own assumptions. And I think kind of like the worst case scenario posited was that a lot of devs said this wouldn't in itself guarantee a retail release of GTA 5 on PC, but, and as I'd suggested, this doesn't disprove it, does it? And the response was unanimously no, of course not. And I'd said, well, would they use this as a base for a PC version? And again, I was told, well, this of course would be the logical step. Of course that. So, it's not 100% conclusive, but do I think it's a PC build? Yes.
Again.
I still do. And it seems like, and again, different responses from different devs, but a lot of them said if I was pushed, I'd say there's a PC version. Others said, look, it isn't conclusive. That's all I can say is, this is where it is. But I think all roads are leading that way, really.
Okay, so that's your little update on the GTA bug log. Moving on now to the future DLC that we have been promised, and have been promised for quite a long time. I think before Christmas, Rockstar said there would be significant single-player DLC on the way. We're thinking, I guess that might happen relatively soon, within the next few months, if we had to guess.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things Rockstar are probably going to announce this year related to GTA 5. Like, we've touched on one of them there, which is probably GTA 5 on PC. It's likely to be GTA 5 on PS4 and Xbox One. Now, the thing they have publicly spoken about and committed to is significant single-player DLC. Now, this was mentioned before Christmas. I would expect in the next few weeks probably to hear about it, as in what it is, and for it to be released within the next few months.
We're thinking in akin to Ballad of Gay Tony and Lost and the Damned as significant DLC packs, basically. New missions, new things to do, new cars, probably, things like that.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be like it could almost stand alone as a worthwhile product, whether it's quite full price, but it sounds like a significant story slice. Now, we have touched upon what we think that content will be before, which we'll expand upon now. Now, obviously, there's no guaranteed steer, there's no guaranteed leaks. There was some stuff that did the rounds, again, supposedly from leaked files that we talked about on previous shows, but it seemed to be a bit unsubstantiated. Yeah. Now, the key threads that we think, and I've speculated that could constitute single-player DLC. The obvious first one is a kind of prequel DLC
how much you putting down?
Set before the events of the North Yankton prologue, where essentially it's a young Michael and a young Trevor and whoever their working partners were. This is all pre-Franklin, and working together when they were learning their trade and learning heists, and it would allow you to play fast and loose with the characters. It enables you to explore North Yankton and other areas. It enables you to continue the heist mechanic and sort of make it fun, and I guess because they're not as professional, there's more scope for humour and fun. Now, that's one avenue they could go down. The other is a more vanilla sort of post GTA 5 story DLC. Now, you know, potential spoiler alert here if you haven't finished the single player, but there's a choice to be made for the single player, and that I think probably most of us chose the
option C.
Option C, as it's known.
Yeah.
So, and that I would have thought that it's likely to be the canon ending, because you wouldn't expect the official ending to be one where one character would no longer be playable.
Yeah, as we've said before, it makes total sense to have all 3 characters still in the game world, so you can do spin-off DLCs and other things like that after the fact.
Yeah, so I just think that's very likely. Now, people would want more heists, so whether they were to concoct a sort of sequel DLC introducing other characters from the GTA universe, whether it's slightly different locations or tapping into locations we know about but haven't been utilised in single player. Now, we were talking about these this morning. It's things like, what were they, James? We had the prison.
Yes, at the prison we had the Landak Dam, the
Yes.
casino and racetrack area hasn't been visited. There's not a lot at Fort Zancudo either that you have to go to in the single player game. There is a mission that takes you there, but you'll never spend any significant amount of time there. And you only really visit like Palito Bay for that one, possibly like one of the most exciting heists in the game, when you've got the minigun and you come out of it and it's really cool. So there's loads of areas to feature the DLC and even to explore properly, and I guess you could, if you were back in time or forwards in time, they could develop those areas slightly differently, add in new buildings and new things to go and look at, so there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, so that's like another avenue. Now, again, I've nothing really to hang that off apart from it just seems logical. That's another step. Now, this sort of the third way for them, like the third potential piece of DLC, which I think is probably further down the line if it is to happen, but there are seeds for it and precedents, is that if you look at Red Dead Redemption and the way that developed, nobody saw the Undead Nightmare mod coming. Like, who thought that game was going to become a zombie western? Like, and weirdly, it worked. You know, it was great and made sense. Now, for GTA, there's actually ways to do, well, not zombies, but to do aliens, and almost to do it in a credible way, because the seeds of, as we've talked about a lot on the show, of UFOs, of conspiracy, of radio chatter talking about abductions,
and even alien invasion.
Yeah, it's all there. So, you know, the idea, an amazing thing would be, you know, aliens are literally invading Los Santos, all bets are off, it's humanity versus the aliens, and just make it some sort of, you know, not quite Saints Row, but like a real departure from reality, maniac, game mode, various missions. You know, it's the last throw of the dice almost for GTA 5, that would be, but it would be funny, and it's not beyond the realms of, you know, what they've created to do.
No, and there is even a theory that the Mount Chiliad mural points towards future DLC. I mean, it's a crazy off-the-wall theory, but it says out there of the mural has the UFO at the top of it. That's in the game, so the whole thing represents GTA
you're through
5
to Pegasus
as a whole.
Lifestyle Management.
And then the
How can I
bottom
help?
sections are UFO, egg, jetpack.
Thank you, sir.
So
Your
the first
specialist
bit of
vehicle
DLC
is now ready for
alien
you at our
focused.
nearest pickup
the
station.
second bit is, I think they said the egg related to dinosaurs.
Of course it did.
Because, you know, everyone loves a bit of dinosaur.
Well,
Godzilla
there is
DLC.
dinosaur Easter egg stuff within the game as
Well,
well.
yeah, so, you know, that could work.
Literally true, and it would be ridiculous, but if you're calling in the aliens, why not bring in the dinosaurs?
And then the third one would be jetpack, or some kind of flying extra bit of DLC in there as well.
Yeah.
So that's a wild off-the-wall theory, but you know, it sort of ties in. If they're going down the crazy undead nightmare, you know, you haven't seen this kind of stuff in a GTA game before route, it makes sense.
Do let us know what you think of our thoughts in the comments, and if you've got something interesting yourself, add it. Now, please don't just write, "Oh lol, I want to turn it into Call of Duty GTA Killer." Like, I mean, you can write that, but please don't. But like, think about if you've found any evidence or you think there's anything to support one of your theories, that would be more interesting. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, just off the back of that, I've got a couple of facts that I'm going to throw in there. We might actually end up turning these things into like a full show in the future, and doing things that, you know, you might not have picked up on GTA. But just as we're here, did you know, Dan, Michael Townley, which is obviously Michael's name that he uses at the beginning of the game, is a real man. He's an actual man. He was born in December 5th, 1942, and is a professional assassin. And he's a United States...
What? Professional assassin?
Yeah, that's his job.
Wow.
But the relationship between him and the Michael in the game are quite similar, as you'll see. He's a United States citizen, currently living in the US, under terms of the Federal Witness Protection Program.
No.
Yeah. A Central Intelligence... he still is, I guess, a Central Intelligence Agency agent and operative of the Chilean Secret Police. He's been convicted and served 62 months in prison in the United States in 1976 for the assassination of Orlando Lettier, who was a former Chilean ambassador. And as part of his plea bargain, Townley received immunity from further prosecution and was therefore not extradited to Argentina to stand trial for that assassination. So he's sort of based on a real man.
Good grief.
So there you go.
That's quite incredible.
There's a couple of other things you might have not picked up from the game. In the mission Hang 10, which is when Trevor goes to Floyd and his wife's house, and they have a little bit of an argument, and he comes out covered in blood, it would appear that Floyd doesn't actually die in that mission, even though it makes it quite clear that he is. But after that mission, if you look on Life Invader, Floyd actually posts on there saying he's finally gone, I have peace at last. Now, whether that's Trevor somehow logging in, or it's logged in the flat and he's typed it in to cover his tracks, or somehow Floyd is still alive, I mean, it looks like he's pretty dead. There's quite a lot of blood everywhere. But, you know, there's potential for Floyd to come back, and like a surprise, not dead type thing.
I'm really low on blood, but I'm alive.
Yeah. A couple of things about other mysteries in the game. Apparently in update 1.08 or 1.07, which was reasonably not that long ago, Rockstar have added a script file called letterscraps.xsc, which is a binary thing. It's also on the disk, but in that update they updated that file. Not quite sure what the update contained or what's in it, but the letterscraps file is being updated in current updates. Whether that points towards an expansion on that mystery or anything like that, we don't know. But it's a cool thing to think about. And there's a sign in Polito Bay as well, which has got a lot of weird letters on it and letters missing, and it's in a weird order. No one really knows what it means, but I might take a further look at it for a fact or fiction and see if we can investigate just what that means or what it points to. So talking of online and stuff, we do a live stream every Friday.
Yes, we do.
And we have some, hopefully, very exciting news to share soon. But we've got a little teaser. Dan, you've been speaking to Rockstar about our cruise.
Yeah, the details are yet to be confirmed, but it could be that we're on the edge of a breakthrough in terms of the way our crews work. But currently we've got 3 crews with like different sub-brands. We've got the GTA 5 O'Clock crew, GTA 5 O'Clock Shadows, GTA 5 O'Clock Gravels. We've each got a crew limit of 300. We've got like a limited number of spaces in each, but there's like thousands on the waiting list for each, and people get irate because they think some people in them don't play, and it's sort of, you know, it's created slight frictions, which is a shame because obviously that's not what we want. We want it to be inclusive. Now there's talk of there being a tech breakthrough that will allow us to have a ginormo crew with all the normal crew's abilities, and in which case we may be able to like integrate everyone under one banner.
That would be great.
So it's details TBC, but as soon as there's a breakthrough, we will let you know, and it should be transformative for the inclusion in the live stream.
Right, now finally then, our GTA live streams currently go out on Friday at 4 PM UK time over here. What we're thinking of doing, we'd like to hear your feedback in the comments or on Twitter at GTAVoClock, is moving it to Friday AM in the UK time, which I think would make it quite late over in America, but not like stupidly late that hopefully some of you wouldn't be able to join in. And we're also toying with the idea of moving it from YouTube to Twitch. Basically, we're not quite sure about the details, and we'd like you guys to help us bring it all together and pick like a platform to stream it on and a time that's going to work for everyone. Now obviously some people are always going to miss out because of the way the world works, but if we can get a way where UK and US people can play together and we can all watch and join in together, then that's basically the goal.
Yeah, like we're thinking about times like, let's say 9 AM UK time, which would be, I think, around about like midnight-ish in West Coast America. So it's like, it's just staying up late, as opposed to our current, like, not very feasible time.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think. I think do so in the comments. Perhaps if you want to get like a direct line to us, use the @GTAVoClock Twitter handle, or go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/. And let us know there. They're the best channels to communicate. We're not going to be able to keep everyone happy. We appreciate that, but we do want to change the times up.
Yeah, so let us know about that, and hopefully we should be able to have an announcement either tomorrow or, if things go bad, next week.
Yeah, and do check GTAVoClock Twitter @GTAVoClock for the main announcement.
So hopefully you've got something out of this quite short and sweet episode. We're sorry it's not as long as last week's mega 50-minute one, but there's some good stuff in there. Thanks for joining us. We'd like to see you on the live stream on Friday, so make sure you check those Twitter and Facebook things. Dan, anything else?
Not only to say that it's been a challenging period for GTA 5. A lot of people have moved to single player. There's been various disaffections with online. I think it's time to reinforce the message that Rockstar are a long way from finished with GTA 5. I think we're about to see an injection of genuinely exciting new content. I think we'll hold tight for a few weeks.
Yeah, we've still got Heist.
I was going to say there's going to be a tsunami of information, but then there already is if you're in the debug of C.
And with that, we shall say goodbye, and we'll see you next week, if not before.
Right.
On this week's GTA 5 o'clock, crew limits raised. Sign up now and join us online. 2K investor call hints at something before March 31st. Get a complete buyer's guide to cars in GTA Online, plus GTA 5 in Minecraft and how a changing LA could affect the game. It's all here on this week's GTA 5 o'clock.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of GTA 5 o'clock. I am your host James Jarvis, and I'm joined as ever by co-host Dan Dawkins.
Hello there.
He is back. He is well again, well enough to be in the office at least, and he's raring to go.
Yeah, I've got glands like giant footballs, but I am well enough to speak.
Okay, coming up this week we've got some more info about the possibility of GTA on next gen and PC. We've got some great knit work which Dan has found, and GTA 5 Minecraft edition, we're going to call it. It's not really a Minecraft edition, but you'll see when we get onto that a bit later on. Just up top, quick congratulations, not to us this time, but Leslie Benzies, Dan Hauser and Sam Hauser, who have been inducted into the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences as the 18th, 19th and 20th members in its Hall of Fame. So that's nice for them. Obviously they are the pioneers in making the open world games, and now they've been recognised for that. So moving on then to the big news this week. We hinted at it last week, almost like we're some kind of mystic Meg. The Rockstar crew limits have been upped to 1,000 now, Dan.
Yeah, this is really good news, and it's not just applying to us, it's for everyone who's got a crew. The cap of 300 gang members has now been uplifted to 1,000. So Rockstar are advising people to get busy in terms of recruitment, using their pages, by promoting more people within your hierarchies to help deal with new recruits. Yeah. We've got 3 crews running this week, and between us we've had like a capacity of 900, and that's been up to 3,000 across the 3 crews. Yeah. So if you can find us on the social club, and that's either the OCLK, the OCLG or the OCLS crews, which are Shadows and Gravels, we can boost up, at least another 700 people per crew. Yeah. Which, we could probably fill just with a backlog of people waiting.
Yeah, I've started going through our backlog already in the Shadows, at least this morning. So if you have got requests pending, then keep an eye out for some updates coming your way. Hopefully we'll be able to plough through all of the pending requests we've got and up our crew limits to 1,000 each.
Yes, exciting. And Rockstar are obviously using this, I think, to promote the newly released crew head-to-head playlist challenge feature, where you can set 2 crews against each other, and it's only in game modes with like where you're allowed 2 teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can do it, and you can play for like high stakes, as in the minimum wager is $1,000. So yeah, we'll probably be getting involved with more of that kind of stuff on the live stream quite soon.
Yeah, keep a lookout for that, and do go and join our crews if you want to join us on the live stream. So moving on to some more big news. Take-Two had its financial conference call the other day. Dan has been through it using some Leicester-esque surveillance techniques. Dan, the thing everyone wants to know, did they talk about PC and next-gen versions?
No, but...
Okay.
This, you may have heard about this. Rockstar's parent company, Take-Two Interactive, a publicly listed company. They're obliged to report to their shareholders. They hold a public shareholder call with various investors from different firms, getting and asking questions, talk about what they've earned, what the share projections are, top line, what the company's going to be doing over the forthcoming months, what their plans are. Now, these things are like publicly available. You can go on the Take-Two website and actually record the MP3 and get hold of it. So they're obviously not going to accidentally announce something that would set the internet ablaze.
No, they're pretty smart. They're used to doing these kind of things.
Yeah, during an investor call. And I think particularly in the modern world, there might have been a time where they thought there was no spotlight on these things, but now they are seen as landmarks, and somehow we all expect announcements to be made there. An interesting thread throughout all of the conversations is that they really explicitly demark Rockstar's activities and marketing from what we're here to report. I think they essentially keep saying, we leave all the marketing and that to Rockstar. We are not here to make these announcements today. So that's a consistent thread throughout the call. Now, the call, the celebrities on the call are people like Strauss Zelnick, who's the chairman and CEO of Take-Two Interactive, and there are lots of like various different investor relations and finance folk. Now, you've probably seen some of the big headlines that are filtered out onto a lot of the main websites. The most significant are the fact that, yes, GTA 5 has done really well. Like, as we already knew, the game sold $800 million worth in 24 hours, which was confirmed by Take-Two. Over $1 billion in 3 days, which was confirmed by Take-Two. And this is quite new. They confirmed the game has sold 32.5 million units worldwide.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, it's absolutely staggering. And again, I think I haven't got it on screen, but contextually I'd like to place that in line of other games, but it seems like this is online to become the biggest selling game.
Yeah, I think it's in the top 3 now of biggest selling games of all time. I think there is a Call of Duty above it for now, but if they keep going at this rate, they'll be up there pretty soon.
Now, what was interesting, and again this made it out to the sites, is that it says approximately 70% of consumers who've played GTA 5 while connected to the internet have played GTA Online since its launch on October the 1st. It says, as a result, GTA Online was the single largest contributor to our digitally delivered revenue in the 3rd quarter. Now, for all the problems they've had with online and with microtransactions and freezing it and restarting it, the money accrued from people buying microtransaction packs is still the biggest contributor to all of Take-Two's digital revenue. So this is what we said going back 8 months, a year ago. We said this is a significant long-term investment for them. This is why they are doing GTA Online, because they know this money will come in. And imagine, when it's properly working. Now, throughout the entire conversation, a lot of the people on the call, the investors were asking, can you say exactly how many of the 70% who've played GTA Online have actually bought things?
Yeah.
What are your targets? What are your expectations? And again, throughout the call, Take-Two were very standoffish, and largely talking about wanting to promote quality rather than financing, and that not being their primary driver. So, and also another big part of it was people asking about, well, obviously, will there be a PC version? Will there be a next-gen version? How are you going to deal with the growth of mobile phones? There's some interesting answers in there. One is, it said, Take-Two said, our ability to bring our popular catalogue titles to mobile platforms enables us to grow our audience and generate incremental revenue and profits with modest development cost and virtually no marketing spend. Now, they obviously, as has been talked about, they obviously see mobile phone ports as a cheap and easy way to make money. Yeah. Not necessarily to compromise quality. This is actually a thread that continues throughout it, where they say Take-Two repeat to say we do not discriminate between platforms. We want our games to be on as many platforms as possible, but what we do discriminate between is sort of like processor power and screen size, where we don't want to produce compromised experiences.
Well, I guess we've seen that with the release of San Andreas recently on mobiles and stuff. Like, they've only just got to that stage. Mobiles are powerful enough now to sort of handle those kind of processors and graphics that we used to play on our giant TVs at home. So I guess as mobile phones get more and more powerful, we'll see more and more Rockstar games on those devices.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what was also interesting, and this may or may not relate to GTA titles, is Take-Two said, looking ahead, we have a robust pipeline for both new intellectual properties and offerings from our proven franchises in development, including more than 10 unique titles for the next generation consoles.
10?
So yeah, 10 Take-Two next-gen games in development.
Right now?
Yeah. So whether they're a mixture of stuff from existing franchises or not, but that's a lot of games, and I think that may be separate from Evolve that they've already announced, which is the sort of Left 4 Dead style Aliens game. Now, again, this is talking about creator missions. Take-Two confirmed, they talked about the success of the creator function in GTA Online. It says the player community has already created and published over 2 million death matches and races.
You've done one of them, Dan?
Yeah, and of which I contributed 2 or 3 myself. It says consumers can look forward to more content from Grand Theft Auto Online in future. Now it's they added this on the single player DLC. In addition to supporting Grand Theft Auto Online, Rockstar Games plans to release substantial story-driven downloadable add-on content for Grand Theft Auto 5. Rockstar will have more to say on this in the coming months. Now, substantial is a word I've heard repeatedly, and in every conversation I've had with Rockstar myself, they use the word substantial as almost a company mantra. So, suffice to say, it looks like it's in the ballpark of the Ballad of Gay Tony.
Yeah, it's not going to be just, here's an extra few cars. It will be proper story-driven DLC.
Now, this is interesting. It doesn't sound interesting at first, but you'll have to wait for me to explain it. And now, what Take-Two did say is they announced their results for the third quarter, which is Q3 of their fiscal year 2014. So I think this is from the period of like September to December, effectively. Now, they confirmed that their net revenue increased 90% on the previous period, or was it the previous years, to $767 million. So, and they projected an outlook of 650 to 700 million. And they said it's primarily due to the continued success of Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, these figures don't mean much without the context, but you have to think, first of all, this in itself is a 90% uplift on what might be considered regular operating. Right, so let's say regular operating is like 50 to 100 million or something right now. What is interesting is later on they talk about their fiscal projections for the current or upcoming quarter, which is Q4 2014, which is from Jan to March 31st 2014, which for many people have speculated, including myself, that this could be one of the release windows for either single player DLC or GTA 5 on PC.
Yeah.
Their predicted revenues for this period are 170 million to 200 million, right? So that is about a third to a quarter of what they made in that incredible GTA 5 release window. But it certainly isn't like 90% down or whatever the regular period is. So it does seem like they're expecting something to do quite good business for them in this next period. Now it's worth noting, they said this explicitly, the majority of our revenue in the fourth quarter is expected to come from NBA 2K14, Grand Theft Auto 5, GTA Online, Borderlands 2 and WWE 2K14. Now, all of those games are out in some capacity. Hardly any of them, apart from Borderlands, which is actually a very old game now, are anywhere near the scale of GTA. So the significant bulk of those revenues aren't coming from NBA, they're not coming from the WWE 2K14. It's probably coming from something linked to GTA 5.
Yeah,
now,
think so?
Whether, and you could probably look at the market history figures for this, whether GTA 5 on PC would be a contribution of about, let's say, $100 million, or whether it's coming from single player DLC, I don't know. And it's interesting that later on in the call, an investor deliberately picks them up on this and asks, like, have you said where those revenues are being attributed? And they explicitly say, we are not adding any colour to that right now. So it almost sounds like they're willing to give the financials, but they're not revealing exactly where that's coming from. Which again, if it's part of a marketing announcement to come from Rockstar, would make perfect sense.
Well, if it's coming before March, we're already middle of Feb almost. Well, early February, so there's only sort of a month away until something like that happens. So you'd expect an announcement of something coming pretty soon.
Yeah, that's exactly it. If it is something, if it is what we think it will be, either single player DLC or GTA 5 on PC / next gen, or likely PC, that's got to happen soon. If it's in that quarter, maybe Rockstar do have another plan for where those projected revenues are coming from. It just seems particularly weird they wouldn't outline what they were if there wasn't a need to keep a secret, if that makes sense.
Do you think they can launch single player DLC with the ongoing GTA Online issues of it not quite doing all the things that they said it was going to do?
Yeah, I think if it's built and ready, they can. I think single player DLC, particularly if it's digitally led, could probably deploy incredibly quickly and easily, and I don't think you need very long in today's world to market a game. I think you get away with even like a few weeks to a month, particularly if it's digital channels.
Yeah,
because you haven't got to prep retail, physically publish the discs, send them out in vans and trucks. It's not such a logistical operation, and they haven't got to spend quite the same amounts on in-store promotion, all the various different things that are expensive and complicated to arrange. Now, talking about Take-Two's attitude to tablets and how they would essentially, they see themselves as platform agnostic, and they would like all their products and IPs from as many platforms as possible. Strauss-Zelnick says, if you believe in Moore's law, which is that processing power grows at an exponential rate, he says, and I do, then you believe that tablets will be tantamount to PCs pretty soon. And he says, and I have reason to believe that if that's where people want to consume video games, that's where we will be. So again, there's a commitment to wanting to do this. There's interesting comments from Strauss. A lot of people have said Rockstar weren't prepared, and we've talked about this on the show. Rockstar weren't prepared for the scale of GTA Online. They didn't invest significantly in their own dedicated servers. They talked around this a little bit, because someone asked him a question and just said, how are you going to keep this online sustainable? And he says, do you see a drop in the number of people who are online? How long can this go on? Now he says, Strauss-Zelnick says, we made it plain that we prefer to expand resources after we see revenues, not before. So we weren't going to invest heavily in the server farm until they knew it was going to be a sustainable financial thing. And he says, we have made no bones about the fact that we have expectations for GTA Online in the fourth quarter. For example, he says, so clearly we have expectations going forward, but we are not at a point yet where we want to share the metrics. Now later on he goes on to talk about not wanting to buy or invest in dedicated, I suppose, backbone support themselves, but would rather outsource third-party server stuff as and when they need it. They just do not see it as part of their strategy to invest in expensive and at some stage probably redundant server capacity.
I guess because as they announce new stuff, you'll get an influx of people going onto online, and then that number will gradually tail off back to its original thing. So it'd be crazy to invest in a giant server farm that's only going to be used sort of 3-4 times a year properly.
Exactly. Like I touched on earlier, people were talking about how many people who've played GTA Online have purchased things, and Strauss-Zelnick repeats, he goes, yes, we are not talking about the percent that have monetised. And again talks about wanting to make a qualitative experience.
70% is still a giant number to even get people who have got the game to go online. That's a huge...
Yes. 32.5 million copies sold. I don't know how many of those have got access to the internet, but again, let's say it's 50%, so you're looking at 16 million there, and if 70% of them, you're looking at sort of 12 million who've tried online, which is pretty staggering, really. It's a huge amount of people. Again, those figures are fast and loose, just as an idea. Now, Colin Sebastian, who's from one of the various investment companies, said, first off, could you provide any perspective on the efforts required to bring a franchise like GTA 5 over to other platforms? Is that more or less a traditional port? Now, given that we've looked at the bug logs, this is quite a pertinent question. Now again, Strauss-Zelnick is very quick to sidestep this, and he goes, we are going to leave it to our labels to talk about what happens with their properties going forward. And he goes, he says, I know at times on these calls people like to talk much more about upcoming releases, and there's some frustration that we don't. The truth is, he says, we are trying to provide as much transparency as we can to our shareholders and leave marketing decisions and the marketing announcements to our labels. So again, we're just not going to get that. Like I said about server farms, this is what they said exactly. In terms of infrastructure, look, the world is going to, and he says, well, he says, you know, resources are outsourced and cloud computing, that's hardly a secret. And we have zero interest in building out massive facilities and spending a great deal of money on CapEx, or capital exchange. He says, I think the bulk of our needs will be handled by third parties. But no, we are not building call centres, data centres or server farms. So that's like a fairly unequivocal answer for everyone who's asked us on the show previously. Now, this is fascinating. This is the Take-Two's views on multi-platform gaming laid bare. One of the investment people asks, he says, could Strauss tell me, assuming that Google, Amazon and Apple continue to press forward with their digital media initiatives, as in they're all being linked to launching their own consoles and or game machines, says, and very likely will have their own boxes soon, how does that impact the way you think about your business? And Strauss's answer is, well, that's good news, because more distribution to consumers on a multiplicity of devices is a good thing. We have reason to believe it's going to be easier and easier to develop in a way that we can be readily available without too much porting expense across a multiplicity of platforms.
So that'll be their sort of engine techs being developed to be easily ported onto anything they want, basically.
Exactly, and again, might go back to our GTA bug log files and building out a PC version which is transplantable, transplantable with like a last gen mode or whatever it is, things that allow it to scale up and down quite easily to match a platform from an easily transportable base. And it says, it basically says, I think the answer is we intend to be everywhere. So it's unequivocal. Yeah. So for people like wondering again in the broader context, would GTA 5 come to PC, given that Rockstar's intention is to be everywhere, and the only thing hampering their decision making are technical issues, like screen size or processing, what's stopping them bringing it to PC? I'm not seeing anything here. Another one of the capital investment firms says, on GTA Online, have you any thoughts on making that a mobile opportunity, just in order to keep people engaged with the franchise when they're away from their consoles or big screens? Now, again, there's lots of talking around this, but what Strauss-Zelnick says is, in terms of mobile opportunities, again, we don't really distinguish between mobile and sort of fixed consoles. We don't distinguish between tablet and PC. We don't distinguish between console and PC and tablet. So we do distinguish between screen size, small, medium and large, because they accommodate different experiences. He says, and we have our own limitations based on platform's technical ability to serve our needs and consumer needs. What he goes on to say is that when they've made, and he says this, he says, the stuff that we have made, the bespoke stuff that we've done for lighter platforms, as in scaled down versions of games, has always enjoyed limited success. And they're not saying failure, but they're couching it in terms of when we've scaled back the core of our product, it simply hasn't worked well. So again, you've got to look at that in the context of your business. Right, almost getting there now. The question was asked explicitly again about the way that people are going to migrate from current gen to next gen, and that will mean like by virtue of the move away from playing current gen GTA Online. He says they're leaving the online play experience in GTA as they upgrade the console experience. Is it reasonable to expect that as people upgrade, they are not playing on prior gen machines? Now, Strauss said, look, we were selling PS2 products until very recently. And goes on, but he says, but I think you are right. As the new platforms gain momentum, we hope they will, software is made available for them. A lot of the consumers will turn their attention to that, and that's why we have more than 10 titles in development for these new platforms, and why they are sounding very enthusiastic and optimistic about our future. So again, it's a couched commitment to providing that service on different platforms. Now, what was interesting, someone picked up on a couple of unusual accrued expenses in the second accounts. He says, is that related to internal royalties? As in, is someone in Rockstar getting absurdly rich from the sale of GTA 5? And now the actual sums aren't listed, but I'm sure you can probably guess the figures. He would be making big money out of this. and he says, I can't confirm the exact details of the account, but it was to do with certain items for compensation for our incentive compensation plan. So somebody at Rockstar has made a big enough amount of royalty payment for it to be significant in the balance of a $750 million sheet. So it's a world that I don't inhabit. I'm mildly jealous, but respect is due.
What's our royalty payments?
In the next life, James?
Just wait, Dan. Once you get your quads tennis, once they implement that feature, you can come back.
Maybe the trickle down will make me rich. Maybe. Now, interesting things on the side, they confirmed that Take-Two have 2,500 employees at the end of this quarter, of which 1,800 were in development. Okay. So I guess like 700 is ancillary, marketing, executive, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's like almost 3/4 of the staff are in development, which obviously where you need your resource. This again was pretty fascinating. Doug Kreutz from Cohen & Company asked, you mentioned you have a lot of store-based GTA 5 content in development. Can you just say whether your March quarter guidance contemplates any of that being released in the March quarter? Thank you. As in, is any of that 170 million to 200 million to do with store-based GTA 5 content? Stray Zelnick's answer is to the point, and he says, yes, we have not given any colour on that. End of answer.
Right.
So he locks him down. So again, are there secrets being withheld? It's entirely possible. So that is the conference call. I know that, you know, hey, maybe you could say there's not that much top-line stuff in there. Reading between the lines, Rockstar are making a long-term commitment to multi-platform, and I think they will probably see a point where if they could release tablet versions of their games that were as good as the main versions, that would probably happen simultaneously as the sort of, you know, the influence of a lot of that.
Yeah, and that they've got 10 games in development for next-gen consoles.
Yeah,
which is big news, really.
Yeah, it's a lot of games, and you know they're not going to come out at once. It's an interesting stack of depth of portfolio.
All right, so that's the conference call. Hope you've got some good information out of that. The next thing that we've got to cover quickly now, I've just got down Knitted Trevor, Dan. Hopefully you can fill people in on this.
Well, I can't really elucidate much more than this, but if you watch on screen now, you will see a wonderful sort of Sackboy style Trevor, and someone on Instagram has created like a wonderful montage of Sack Trevor looking angry and sad and all these various different things. I just thought it was a fun thing to bring to your attention, and you can follow the links to it through the Rockstar newswire. Now apparently Ned Luke comments on sadness over there's my knitted Michael, and there's talk of there being a knitted Franklin in the works as well, so maybe finally we'll see the knitted community. I'm sure somebody there has missed like a dyed in the wool type joke or something better than that, so share your brilliant knitting puns below.
Amazing, go and knit your own and send us pictures of them. Next up,
knit us. You can knit Dan and James.
Yeah, well, that'd be amazing, and then we can show pictures of us holding we've gone too far, haven't we? Good. Next up, some more stuff from the newswire. This is a brilliant graphic from Spiker-Matt, which Dan you found, which is like an online buyer's guide to the different types of cars and vehicles that people can buy in the game and all their different stats.
Yeah, somebody's just gone through and made like a really amazing infographic of like the different types of cars in the game, like supercars, sports classics, bikes, coupes, muscle cars, sedans and compacts. And what it does is it shows you in graph form like the relative speed, braking, acceleration and handling attributes of all those cars. It's a really quick and easy way to go like, I want the fastest, best handling car there is. Bosh, it's there. So like if you wanted the fastest car, you're probably looking at what is it, the Trafalgar Adder at the bottom there, which is a sweet $1 million. So that's like your best pure speed vehicle. And you can go through various things, picking out the best bikes. It's just props to those guys for producing a really good infographic. Well done.
Yeah, good thing to print out and then have on your wall, so you don't have to go through all of the menus and find out how much each one costs. You've got a good graph of it there. A couple more things before we go. GTA 5 in Minecraft, which is a ridiculous project that someone has taken on. They're trying to recreate the whole of GTA 5, Dan, in Minecraft?
Well, it seems like they're more focusing on like San Andreas and, well, you could say maybe GTA 5, like Grove Street in Minecraft. So a YouTuber called My Raging Monkey has made
Good name.
All of Grove Street in Minecraft, which from a distance looks pretty good. He's got like really nice. And then there's a video he's done of the interior of CJ's house, which I will be honest, I can't really remember the interior of CJ's house, and it may or may not look like it. You can probably judge for yourself following links to it. It's an ambitious thing, like well done. In reality, I'm not sure how much fun it will be, but like, wow, kudos for doing that.
Yeah, it looks great, and if you find anything else like that GTA related, please send them in to us at GTAVoClock on Twitter or on Facebook, facebook.com/GTAVoClock. One last thing before we go down, I don't know if you saw this week, but they are changing the colour of the lights in LA. Have you seen this news?
No.
Right, well, it's interesting, sort of. So, the lights in LA are that... actual LA is that iconic sort of yellow street lights that they've got that we see in all the films. They used to get a lot in Drive and a lot of other films. They're going to replace all of the street lights to have them as blue tinted LEDs.
Really?
Yeah. Which means that all of the look and feel of LA will basically totally change from that sort of yellow hue to quite sort of stark white roads now. So yeah, that yellowish glow will be gone, and they're doing it in a lot of other places. I think they're doing it in New York as well. I think it's a thing, probably some kind of health thing that they've discovered that white lights are better for you than the yellow glow. But it does mean that they can't really correct it in post-production either. So it means that all of the films that will be set in LA after they make that change are going to look completely different to all of the other films that they've shot, and potentially games. Now obviously GTA 5 takes on the LA lighting steam, and it is all yellow and stuff, I think. So it'll be interesting to see whether at some point they decide to change the lighting in online to reflect what's happening in real life.
That's actually like really, it feels like a culturally significant moment, because I think we've also wed to the idea and the branding of LA is this sort of like yellow street. I think from the daytime you've got the images of like the orange soaked beaches of Santa Monica and the sunset, and then nighttime is this yellow glow, and so you feel that the street is kind of feeling. Yeah, it's sort of perhaps into a more crystalline blue. Almost feels like, oh god, I'm in Detroit with RoboCop or something. It's like, you know, they're rebranding the city at night. So it's quite a significant step. I'm sure people can find this probably a legitimate reason to do so. Maybe the fact that they're using light bulbs that are £7 billion cheaper to run or something. You know, it could just be that. But you know, to me, that almost feels like a sad cultural watermark moment.
Yeah, it's definitely a change in history. I mean, you'll be able to properly date now that changeover of when films were made and when cultural references were made to LA, judging on what the nighttime scenes look like. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. Let us know your thoughts about that in the comments below. And I think that is the end of this week's GTA 5 o'clock. Lots of good stuff in there, lots for you to mull over. If you've got any comments, please put them below. If you've got anything that you want to join us, or anything you want us to do in the live stream on Friday, like links to your playlists or some jobs that you've created, put them in the comments, send us them on Facebook and Twitter. And don't forget that on Friday, hopefully Dan will be back.
Unless I got ill again, which I'm hoping not.
It was great last week.
I heard it went really well.
Well, we won a thing, Dan.
Well, I don't know what's going on.
We won everything, in fact.
Thought I wasn't there to distract you.
Well, some people were saying that. Other people, you know, were just saying that it was just because I'm brilliant. I don't know.
Oh, right.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
Thank you for that, Mama Jarvis, for your interjection.
You'll be back next Friday, so normal service should resume.
Great service will be resumed.
So thanks for listening, and Dan, I think we're ready to say goodbye.
Yeah, bye. Thanks for listening.
Hi guys, this is James from GTA 5 o'clock, and these are the highlights of our Friday live stream, which goes out every Friday at 4 PM GMT. If you like what you see, please let us know in the comments comments below. And if you want to join in next week's live stream, don't forget to join one of our crews on the GTA Social Club. You can join the GTA 5 o'clock crew, the GTA 5 o'clock Shadows, or the GTA 5 o'clock Rebels. We hope to see you online very soon, but until then, please enjoy this week's highlights. I have dressed us up as somebody, but I'm not going to say who guess in the comments. Just get the comments and see people can guess. But we should say beforehand, we are doing like a Hollywood special, so we're doing loads of stunt things from all the great action movies, possibly mildly popular TV shows. Yes, that's what I said. Now, in a slightly transvestite fashion. Who is it? No. Obviously, it is. He's missing his football. But it is Tom Hanks from Castaway. He looks like Russell Brand's had a haircut. Yeah. Listen! Oh, look at that. Jack Gillespie says, when I said that obviously Tom Hanks was missing his football, I thought we were going to declare him as David Luiz. Yeah, no, David Luiz did also cross my mind, Jack. Driving on his roof, though, wasn't in the script. It wasn't in the script. Now, come on, folks, if you're watching... Keep rolling down the hill! Whoa, hello! Whoa. Who's coming the bounce? Who's got hydraulics in their car?
Someone's come as the end of reality.
Releasing the hood. No,
there is some Lovecrafty and carnage going on.
Well, there's some weird things happening. Why's everyone naked as well? I mean, there's so many naked celebrities.
The stream you're seeing is obviously Dan, because he's ended up in...
I keep repeating the story of the fine chap who watched his live in class, had his phone confiscated, and the teacher showed it to the entire class. I would just say I'll eat several million hats, preferably cheese hats, just in case I do actually put an actual risk to myself. But if there is a GTA 5 on PC, possibly I got taken aback John once again.
You're stuck in exactly the same place as you were.
This is how the unknown Stokeman rolls. He seeks danger at every opportunity.
So yeah, let's just flip this on to an expert now.
We're going to spin off that like a skate-style jam session, maybe 6 of us, and you are going to vote for the winner, much like Strictly Come Dancing, Dance with the Stars, X Factor. Oh dear, James.
Oh no.
He's going to take 10 people up really high with him in play, and they're going to do a formation sniper. In fact, what we're going to do then is a variant of the highly successful Wesley Snipes game mode from last week.
Wesley Snipes and C.
Let's go on Jack Gillespie. Dan is so old. He was a child. Rainbows were in black and white. Shoot them up.
You inherently
shoot them up.
You're aiming up. Shooting up.
Shooting up. That works on at least 3
Wesley
levels.
Snipes is shooting up.
One of them we shouldn't mention in front. Yeah. Wait, that's it. We've got a winner. Yes, Dave. Wesley Snipes. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Is Dan's haircut a shout out to his childhood memories of the Red Sea being passed?
I'm going to do a stunt. There I go.
There is.
Oh, James, it's great. Super Trooper, Parachuter, and Dan's hair looks like a dog's. People are calling James Jarvis, James Jarfish.
Well, that's not true. So stop that.
James Starfish. Starfish. Beginneth the infamous airport mega jump.
Okay. Oh, there's another one.
Oh, hello.
It's coming in.
Yes.
Close.
Oh, that's not great landing.
Right, now they're just shouting out scores indiscriminately because everyone's got it. This is utterly confusing. It's like a computer failure.
I think I've won.
Should I start a gang war? Either.
Kieran Banks asks, what exactly are your job titles? I'm the assistant CEO of Fun Times and Jokes. Are they all inside Ian?
Yeah, they are.
Oh my god, they're amazing scenes. Amazing scenes you can't see.
Another amazing scene you can't see. There you are.
There it is. There's the infamous Titan.
Oh, look at all the
Look
little
at that.
That
enemies.
is stacked.
So you can't shoot him. You've got to use melee
We've
weapons.
got a parachute onto the top of the maze.
There's another Titan in the air.
It's floating. Look around.
No, he's coming down right on top. He's on top.
He's on top of your head.
Oh,
He's there.
He's gone.
That was me. Oh.
Yeah,
Right, come on. Look to the sky. There's loads of them. I've got a feeling the draw distance of GTA Online may have adversely affected this game mode. You again, brilliant. Get them killed. Get them killed. Don't kill Will. We need him alive. It's the other guys. The other shooters. Oh, headshot! Here we go. He's gone. He's got a gun, he's shooting. Rolling and gunning? That's not a melee weapon. He's going to get
No!
him. He's gonna
Oh,
get
it's
him. Yes,
Bond! Bond's arrived!
James Bond.
James Bond.
Ding, 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 ding,
Oh!
ding, ding.
Yeah.
I think so.
Bond's
I'll
amazing.
start some carnage.
You start doing, oh my god, oh my
Take it
god.
yourself.
Essentially,
I'll
this
start
ending
again.
is much like that of The Expendables, where 11 or 12 washed-up celebrities who no longer look like themselves will attempt to hold off a pack of relentless killers. We're ready for the police. Are they ready for us?
Oh, no, they're
Did
not.
you ring them?
I rang them and no one answered. They're engaged. The police were busy.
I've had shocking news from Bruce Willis's agent.
Oh no.
He says, Bung Piece UK says, I was Bruce Willis, but I've had to drop out due to server issues.
Oh no!
And do you know that's a double irony, because Bruce Willis appears in an advert on UK TV. Where
For high-speed internet.
just sellotape yourself with C4 and let's just put an end to it.
Okay.
Here we go.
Put them all down.
Any last words?
Just brush yourself down, and then we'll say goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week. Yeah.
Oh, even the
Ad lib, Dan.
even the disappointment.